up, people? We're back on this is Tuesday, January 13th, and we're here to talk about the debacle of a season that the Eagles had, especially at the end. Um, what a loss in that game. What a loss, what a loss, what a loss in the game against the 49ers that is still boggling the minds of Eagles fans across the Delaware Valley. Let's go ahead and get into it. What did you think about the game against the 49ers as well as some of the issues leading that we had leading into this game offensive wise?
It's just been a roller coaster all year, man. Pretty much offensively. Defensively, we saw what they were able to do, and we know what they're able to do. But offensively, it's just been a struggle all year, man. It's just been stubborn to make the changes. It just pretty much led right into this game, and this is probably one of the worst, I think, play calling wise playoff games I think I've seen in some time too. I don't know if it maybe stood out to you as well, but it just looked even worse in this game. I just don't know what it was. It was just hard to watch. Like it was just so like even on that final play call when they just four verticals up the middle, and that's what you got from 4th and 11. Like, how could you end the game like that, knowing the game's on the line, you have a shot to win? Like, and just the inconsistent play from the offensive line all year. The you know, Barkley hasn't been able to get the creases open as much because of the struggles at O line. It's just been a lot, man. It's frustrating because the talent's there and of how basic this offense, the offense has been all year, and you don't have any type of creativity coming into playoffs, no urgency. I expected maybe something a little better. Like you're coming into playoffs, it just looks like you're running off the same thing you've been doing all year and nothing. Like it's just very disappointing. I was sitting there for a good 5 minutes, that's just digesting it when it happened, pretty much when that clock hit 00, man. It's tough.
Absolutely. My prediction going into that game was the Eagles were going to win it. I think I said 30-17, but the caveat was the outcome hinged on Kevin Patullo's ability to either make or break the game. And for those who haven't seen already, Patullo was officially fired today on January 13th. And the door is open, according to Nick Sirianni, for him to remain with the organization in another role. I'm fine with that, honestly. But none of us are surprised. And this episode is really about going into many of the reasons why this Eagles offense sputtered, not just near the end of the season in a playoff game, but throughout the season. A lot of times people will mention there's lack of creativity. He doesn't know what he look like he knows what he's doing, but oftentimes, beyond looking at videos from NFL players who are breaking down the film or analysts who are actually breaking down the film, oftentimes we don't really get into the details as to why this offense failed as spectacularly as it did. Because although it's not the worst offense we've ever seen, I think that's an over exaggeration. It certainly was stale, predictable, and completely inefficient. So we're going to go into some of the metrics here. And this season, and I'm pretty sure you're privy to this, we were a middle of the pack team in terms of the points we were putting up. We were 18th or 19th in the league in scoring. We put up about, let's say, 22 and a half points per game. It's okay, but not with respect to the weapons that we had with this team. Total passing yards per game in the bottom third. You're talking about this total yards per game around 305 yards per game total. The passing game under 200 passing yards per game, around 22nd in the league. Rushing yards per game around 21st with 110 rushing yards per game. Yards per game below league average. League average is 5.5 yards per play. We had about 5.2 yards per play. Pass yards per attempt below league average. Rush yards per attempt sitting right at league average. Completely unacceptable considering all the components you had from that Super Bowl team coming into this year. Even considering the injuries to the offensive line. Even considering the fact that you had a first time offensive coordinator who happened to be a first time play caller on top of that. It wasn't even like he was like Eric Bieniemy where he was helping Andy Reid call plays at a certain point even before he was offensive coordinator. He really had no type of experience and it showed. And I think the real takeaway here is that you had, despite the poor yardage, despite the poor explosiveness, despite the inability to sustain drives, going three and out every other play, especially in the second halves, you still were able to put up a decent amount of points. And I think that really mostly hinged on the talent of this team. They were just good enough to muddle through a lot of the stale play calling that we had from Kevin Patullo. And I want to move on to some of these advanced metrics because these are some points that we talked on in previous episodes, but I really want to emphasize these with some of the numbers. If you're looking at points per drive, elite offenses like the Rams, they're putting up 2.6 or more points per drive. We're putting up around 2 points per drive. Not going to cut it against the better teams, especially against the top level defenses. Success rate in terms of our efficiency, bottom the bottom 5 to 7 teams in the league, we were sitting in that cluster at multiple points this season. And three and outs, um, the frequency of those was so high, I don't even think it's worth mentioning. It's just obvious. And the reason why we had a lot of issues is you have low leverage completions, like a lot of slants, um, maybe a curl route. You know the same routes we complain about every week. And why you're part of why you're struggling is because there's little to no play action. You don't exploit mismatches, i.e., moving Devontae Smith or even AJ Brown to the slot, moving them in motion across the field, and leading into what I just said, there's no pre-snap motion. So all of those things really help you to diagnose the defense pre-snap, and they do none of those. And with respect to pre-snap motion, we were among the lowest in the NFL in doing that. Um, frequently about with when you consider all the play calls in the game, frequently less than 10 to 15% of our play calls actually incorporated pre-snap motion and league average for offenses for pre-snap motion. What do you think the league average is for pre-snap motion, like a range in terms of percentage?
Mm,
30%,
like
50%,
yeah,
70%. What do you think?
I would say like 60 maybe.
Yeah, the league averages by variance is about 40 to 60% um of these offenses use motion 40 to 60% of the time. And
Mm,
we're using motion only 10 to 15% of the time.
bad.
So, and motion is, like I said, it helps you to diagnose the defense pre-snap to help you to figure out whether it's man or zone, and you can use that as leverage. If you move a guy to from one side of the field to the other, now the defense has to adjust. They have to pass the assignment off to somebody else if they don't have somebody following in motion. You change the strength of the deep of the offense. Your strong side is usually on your right side where the tight end's at, and let's say you have trips to the right side. Now, all of a sudden, if you motion the wide receiver or tight end to the left side, now you're changing the leverage that the defense has to account for. Now you create
Right.
what we call conflict on the
Hmm.
defense from the defense's perspective, and now
Yeah.
you allow yourself to have a better shot at having a successful play once you snap the ball. They did none of that.
Mm,
Play action. League average is 18 to 22% of the plays, and the top offenses use play action 25% of the time or more. How often do
mm.
you think that the Eagles use play action?
I would say about 10%.
Man, you're right on the money. 11 to 12%. Half
Man.
that is criminal mismanagement.
Yeah.
Um, and now you're talking about you have Saquon Barkley. Even though you had guys injured on that line, even when you had Landon Dickerson back semi-healthy and he was moving people on
Yeah.
on uh on was it Saturday, Sunday? I'm so mad I don't remember
Uh,
what the
Sunday. Yeah.
He was moving people. So you have strong run game personnel, including Tank Bixby and Saquon Barkley in the backfield. You have a mobile quarterback who can run at any time. And even though you had a lot of success with the RPO and play action, for some reason they just scrapped that like it was just irrelevant. It's it's inexplicable.
It is.
Okay, and then we move on to the run game. So people talk about, well, Barkley, oh, he's washed. Oh, he can't run no more. Let's go into the details. We were complaining all year about how we run on 1st and 10, 2nd and 8. We're running inside zone, A gap handoffs. That's what they do. It's predictable. It don't even matter if the offensive line is healthy. If I know where you're running the ball every play, and I can just leverage my defense with that in mind, I may not completely stop you, but I will slow you down significantly. And if you are injured, if you're not playing at your best, now all of a sudden we're going to have serious problems in this offense. So heavy usage on 1st and 2nd down, little variation. You don't even have any motion pre-snap to even help open up your run game. No RPOs, no jet action or sweep, no mountain motion where you have like a running back or wide receiver in the backfield moving like this before the
Mm-hmm.
snap. You've seen that a lot with the Chiefs, even in the Super Bowl a few years ago that we lost. They use a lot of that jet sweep motion. I think the 49ers and the Rams do that as well. We do none of that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any counter plays. So if you start running the ball right, there's no counter play to take advantage of the defense starting to leverage the fact that you're running to the right and you run a counter to take advantage
Mm-hmm.
of that. We don't see that. Um,
Right.
what are we doing? So the defenses were able to key in on the run versus the pass pre-snap. And what I think a lot of people fail to understand is when a defense is able to key in on what you're doing, just like a boxer who has a predilection for just throwing one punch or one type of combination. Once I know that that's all you do and I take that away, you're cooked. Even an
Mm-hmm.
average to below average opponent can cook you if they know what is coming. Like, I don't know why that's so difficult to understand before we go ahead and start blaming the players. Do they need to execute? Yes. That it starts and ends at execution. We get that. But what difference does it make if you're executing the play call when you're already set up for failure before the snap? And there's
Mm-hmm.
only so much you can do in terms of adjusting pre-snap. We don't know how much freedom Jalen Hurts has to change the plays. I can't I we can get into that at some point. But the point is the fact that we even have to talk about him having to hijack the offense a la Brett Favre or Peyton Manning and just run it himself. Why should he have to do that? Because the coaching is so incompetent versus doing that to complement the play calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
Fourth, I'm gonna keep rolling on, get all this out, and then get your thoughts on this. Moving on to the passing game. I don't have the all 22 tape, but what we do know based off of some of the breakdowns we've seen from guys like Emmanuel Acho, Jackson Kruger Sports, channels like that, they break down the film and they're saying the exact same things we're saying, but they're able to show it on film and break it down. But
Mm-hmm.
the routes that they're using often, the slants, i.e. AJ Brown, that's the bread and butter. AJ Brown's going to either run a slant, a hitch, or a quick out. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that hard to figure out. It's not
No,
that hard to figure out. And
no.
in terms of the route concepts, you have smash concepts. Smash being you have outside receiver running a short hitch and then the inside receiver running a post above that hitch. That's a simple concept, but occasional. They don't use it all the time, which makes no sense. They use basic curls. Okay, everybody does that. Isolated go routes. Um, Occasionally, sure, but not all the time. And then the things that they don't use a lot relative to what other teams do in the NFL, running back screens. Completely unacceptable. They never run screens. And that was a staple of the Andy Reid offenses from 2000 to 2004 under Donovan with Brian Westbrook and Deuce Staley, even Dorsey Levens. When they were shutting down the receivers on the outside, with Charles Johnson, Torrance Small, James Thrash, Todd Pinkston, Freddie Mitchell, before the TO days, you always had the wide receiver screens. You always had the tight end screens to Chad Lewis or LJ Smith. They were creative. They don't do any of that. You don't have any
Mm-hmm.
mesh concepts where you have two shallow crossing routes on the third down. Who would have thought of that? Who would have thought that you could run a shallow crosser to try to create some confusion across the middle in terms of who's passing off to who and just get one of those guys open, Smitty or AJ or Dotson? It doesn't matter. You can just call that. You don't need to install that into a playbook. That's a basic NFL concept. You don't need to install that
Mm-hmm.
for 5, 6 weeks. You can just look on the play sheet and say, let's just call mesh. It's a basic play
Yeah.
in Madden. Even
Yeah.
people that don't know football, one of the first plays they go to when they don't know what the hell they're doing, they'll go to a mesh concept. Let me scramble
Yeah.
around and wait for somebody to come open, let a defender collide into another, and somebody's going to show up free.
Yeah. I got so frustrated, man, with you sometimes I had to make that play.
Exactly. And there are many other ones, but another one that two more that they never ran that would boggle my mind is flood concepts. So having three receivers to one side of the field, you have one receiver, let's say a tight end going to the flat to take to stress the defense on the short route. Somebody intermediate, let's say like a 7 yard out route to stress the defense at the middle level of the defense, and then a go route to stress the defense deep. None of that. And then the other one that doesn't make sense to me, and we mentioned this before, motion into routes. So let's say you have 10 seconds on the play clock and you call Smitty in motion. Smitty runs from the right, but before he gets to the tight end spot or the Y spot, as they would call it, where Goddard is lined up next to the tackle, you snap the ball. So he's already in motion. It might be a drag route. He might run a post. You don't know what he's going to do after that, but it allows the receiver to get what's called a free release or have a
Mm-hmm.
higher likelihood of getting a free release. None of that. So I went through a bunch of concepts that many other teams do, including the elite offenses that the Eagles just flat out did not utilize. That's not conjecture. That's not me just pulling ideas out of my ass. No, those are facts. Those are
Yeah.
the stats. Um, so that's why many fans and analysts they often say the Eagles only run like 3 or 4 routes, and in reality, they're not really exaggerating. They're not. So you so to summarize the offense and what they look like in terms of motion, the league runs a lot of motion. We run no motion. Play action, everybody runs play action. We don't run play action. Route diversity in terms of the route trees, they run a lot of teams, they run a lot of different routes on that route tree. There's more than 3 routes on the route tree, regardless of what offense you're talking about. We don't have a lot of diversity of what routes we call. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
every other team calls running back screens. Even the worst teams, we don't even call screens to Saquon or Tank Bigsby. We've called more screens to Dallas Goedert than we called to either one of them, and those include, I guess, what you could call the little shovel passes that seem to work. That's kind of like the only kind of semi-screen looking play that he's delved into and leaned on when he has no answer, particularly in the
Yeah.
red zone. And I won't knock
Right.
him for that. He was actually pretty good at having a feel for when to call that shovel pass. But okay, Andy Reid was doing that 20 years ago. That's like
Yeah.
elementary. That's West Coast elementary football and West Coast
Yeah.
offense. And then defensive manipulation. Every team has pre-snap motion. When we I know he just got fired, and although he may have had a lot of challenges being the head coach of the Dolphins as an offensive mind, Mike McDaniels is really sharp. And the reason why
Mm-hmm.
that Miami offense had a few good years where they looked unstoppable is because they had so much pre-snap motion, all this noise pre-snap. And by the time they snapped the ball, defenders did not know who they were supposed to be covering. You get these free releases, blown coverages, yada, yada, yada. We don't do any of that. We just line up. barely get the snap off with 2 seconds to go. Let them time their blitz if they're going to time it, and there's no pre-snap motion, so they already know what look they're going to get, and they just key in and pin their ears back and go after Jalen Hurts. Or go after
Mhm.
Saquon, knowing exactly what gap to hit because you run the same play to the A gap over and over and over again, whether the line's
Mhm.
healthy or not. So that's kind of my Cliff Notes version of what struggles this why this offense struggled and what areas they lacked in that played a key role in why they struggled. What say you, man?
For one, that was a very good breakdown, very knowledgeable. For another, I mean, you couldn't have said any better, man. Like, I mean, it's beyond me how you're so far into the season and you're not figuring out that, you need to play more pre-snap motion, like any type of creativity whatsoever. Like, I want to ask your point on this. LaShawn McCoy pointed out that the reason the Eagles can't call any exotic looks, any like type of motion, is because Jalen Hurts can't do it. What do you think about that?
Here's what I'll say to that. It seemed like Jalen Hurts was very successful prior to Brian Johnson at spots as he was growing as a quarterback. And then when he was under center, when Kellen Moore was here, he looked highly efficient. And especially when you incorporate RPO plays, which,
Hmm.
um, contrary to popular belief, you have to have a certain instinct and feel for that. It's very easy to turn what would be a 50-yard touchdown into a fumble behind the line of scrimmage because you didn't read um, the outside contained defender, or you weren't able
Hmm.
to read the linebacker who's supposed to be deciding whether he's going to cover the run or the pass, especially on those plays where you would throw a slant behind the linebacker. I think that Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts, what don't people conveniently forget that there has never been a quarterback that's had a different offensive coordinator every year of their career, spanning back to his first season, I believe, at Alabama.
Hmm.
That's not something you can gloss over. I'm
No,
sorry. For
you can't.
those that have a
Yeah.
criticism about Jalen Hurts, can he be better? Yes, but so can many quarterbacks. And I'm going to go into my argument with that maybe if we have time for it. But every year you have a different offensive coordinator with a different philosophy, different quirks, different things they like to do. I'm surprised he hasn't regressed very far considering that. Imagine
Yeah, for
going to a
sure.
job, you learn how to do computer programming in C++, plus plus, let's say 20 years ago. And every year at your job, they ask you to learn a new computer programming language. It doesn't matter how
Hmm.
good you were at C++. Plus plus. It might take you a while to learn Java. And then once you learn Java, now they're telling you to learn R. And after you learn R, they're telling you to learn another language. And then they're
Hmm.
going to get mad at you when you're struggling to keep up the same productivity when you're being asked to switch from a different language, i.e., a different playbook and different concepts every year. Like, what don't people understand about that, including former players? Because none of
Yeah.
them have, when you don't have to deal with something to go through something, it's hard to understand what the person's going through from their perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it didn't make sense to me, Stan, because like you said, we've seen it. We've seen him do it in Kellen Moore's system.
We just
We've seen
saw,
the
I'm
RP.
sorry to cut you
You
off.
know?
We just saw a few
Yeah.
weeks ago when people were making the same criticism you just mentioned that Shady made. They said, "Oh, he can't read defenses," and mind you, we criticized him a few years ago when he couldn't read the middle of the field in that Tampa Bay loss. It might have been 2001 in that playoff game. I think that might have
Hmm.
been a loss when Tom Brady, it might have been his last year with the Bucks. It might have been their Super Bowl year. I think they went through us.
Hmm.
Look at the throws he made a few weeks ago. It might have been the Chargers game, I think, where he threaded the needle on 2 passes to AJ Brown. Those are some those are throws that you expect out of Peyton Manning, Justin Herbert. Um, I'll even put Brock Purdy up there. Who else? Matt Stafford. They make those throws. But Jalen Hurts, he's not elite. He's not supposed to be able to make those throws. Hell, he's not even supposed to be able to make that read, let alone under pressure. Not only does he
Hmm.
scramble out, he had like a Donovan McNabb scramble drill where he's dipping and dodging guys like his bumper cars, and he scrambles out and throws a dot
Hmm.
between two defenders in this small window.
Hmm.
That average quarterbacks don't do that. And
No.
another thing is, I think that it's an important distinction to make that the level you're at is not constant. You can be elite one year and be good the next year, and then have to make the changes to become elite the year later. It's not like you reach a 95 rating and you stay there. Like people have this mindset, like they're playing Madden. Like as soon as a guy reaches the 95, he's going to stay there for the next 5 years until the stats drop off. No, you might be a 95 this year and a 90 next year. And you might be an
Hmm.
89 a year after that, and then go back to being a 92 because you worked out some of the wrinkles, right? But at the end of the day, when I've seen him in head-on matchups against some of these so-called elite quarterbacks, and to be fair, some of them are elite. Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, wavering on this now, Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford.
Joe
Last time I
Burrow.
checked, didn't Matt Stafford lose to us in the playoff game last year? I
Yeah.
thought he was elite. He is, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that he's perfect.
Exactly.
Before that touchdown drive that he had to ultimately put them ahead in that wild card game, he missed a throw to Devontae Adams wide open. The MVP level quarterback Matt Stafford wide open, right? Playing a great game up to that point, but missed a wide open pass. And if they would have lost that game, they would have pointed back to that and said he ain't the guy, which would have been ludicrous because
But
just missing one pass doesn't determine that. But if
no.
Jalen Hurts would have missed that same pass, they would say he's a bum. See, I told you, just like I thought.
Hmm.
Selective criticism.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I don't have criticism for Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah.
Poor K no los dos. Why can't I be critical of these other quarterbacks and also be critical of Jalen, holding each person accountable on a player by player basis,
Hmm.
on a season by season basis? Matt
Yeah.
Stafford is not the Matt Stafford he is now when he was in Detroit. I don't care how bad those Detroit teams are. There's no way you should go 0-16 if you have Megatron on your team. You should win at least one game. Hell, the Browns. It took the Browns longer to go 0-16 than it did the Lions. And they had Tim Couch and a graveyard list of quarterbacks leading up to that point. But Matt Stafford, this so-called elite future Hall of Famer, went 0-16. So, but to be fair, that's not his fault. He had a bad team. But if you were judging him the same way you judge Jalen Hurts, you would have to keep it a bean and say, you know what? Maybe he's not elite. So you see how the logic doesn't line up when you start to really go into the details.
Yeah. I
Justin
agree.
Herbert, Justin Herbert rolling out to the left in that Eagles game. Jalen Hurts rolled out to the left, missed the pass. Should have made that pass. Fair. You got to make that pass, Jalen. Justin Herbert rolls out to the left, misses a pass to Lad McConkey that he sails high. Had time to throw on the run while adjusting his body. You're supposed to be elite. These are supposed to be the throws you make all the time. Why did you sail it? Oh, his hand was broken. His left hand was broken. His right hand, there's nothing wrong with that. So what happened? Right? Just keep it consistent. Stop giving these other guys passes for things you wouldn't give Jalen Hurts a pass for.
Yeah. I mean, Patrick Mahomes threw three interceptions the same week. Jalen Hurts had the worst game of probably his career, but y'all weren't giving him the same energy as you were giving Hurts.
Exactly. I just think that we have to be a little more objective when we're applying our critique to these players. It's not that I'm trying to give Jalen Hurts a free pass. No, I'll call him out just like the rest of them. It's just
Yeah,
don't have selective outreach. That's all. Um,
100%.
with that being said, that was a very good point on Shady, and I think maybe he should talk to Richard Sherman because Richard Sherman and Nick Foles and them, I'll be interested to see if they have the same opinions. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. Um, all these former players, they're going to have different opinions, but one thing they all agree on is that the play calling was horrible.
Yeah.
So I want to end this off by looking at some of the route concepts. I have actually a heat map here of foundational things that they leaned on, things they use regularly, things they use occasionally, and things that they never used. So in terms of the Eagles, quick passing game, slants all the time, we know that. Hitches, we know that. That's predictable. Quick
Hmm.
outs all the time. Uh, Throws to the flat to like Goddard or the running back to get tackled for 4 yards in the 3rd and 7 all the time. Wide receiver bubble, mm, not sometimes. Running back screens, never. Intermediate passing game, they don't use anything besides curls, digs, and smash routes and shallow crosses, and they don't even use those that often. That's horrific. And then deep passing, 16 yards plus, go routes, fade routes, rarely. Post routes, rarely. Corner routes, rarely. Post digs, the Mills concept, deep over, slot sleeves, they never use that. Like it's just like criminal. And then motion, the only thing they've used for motion is when they have like a stack. Like you might have a bunch formation, or you might have a receiver stacked upon each other. But beyond that, no jet motion, no motion into the routes pre-snap, no play action shots over the middle, which um, the 49ers, that's what they're good at. That was the strength of their offense, and why at times they had success against the strength of the Eagles defense, which is stopping passes over the middle. Even though they knew the Eagles were good at that, guess what? They still freaking tried it and had success at times. Just try it, mix things up.
Hmm.
Um, and then run plays inside zone. That's it. Nothing else to say. No play action, no bootlegs, no screen passes off the run, no RPOs, which is you just won a Super
That's
Bowl off of running
beyond me.
RPOs. Why would you not go back to that? So pretty much the defense could see everything that was going to happen early, which is why CJ Gardner Johnson kind of laughed when they asked him after I forgot what team he was playing when he beat the Eagles, Lions, Bears, whatever.
Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Chicago.
he was like, "Did you guys know what was coming?" And he just smiled. It's like, "Of course I do. Not just because I played there
Yeah.
before, because we all did on that defense. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science."
Nah.
So you look at teams like the Rams, route concepts out the ass, slants semi-moderately, RB screens, wide receiver screens semi-moderately. Um, but especially in the intermediate game, this is where McVay shines. Deep over routes all the time. Levels concepts, chef's kiss all the time. Dagger concepts, like when you're running, let's say, you have the slot receiver running straight, and then the outside receiver, Devontae Smith, doing a deep in all the time. Wide crosses, mesh concepts, yes. Deep passes, play action shots. Let's just stop there. Let's just stop there. And they're not the only team that completely just outshines the Eagles' offensive scheme in terms of what they do. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
just give a brief kind of comparison. Hell, even the 49ers, with all the injuries they had uh, better scheming for sure. Kyle Shanahan, that's the reason they won.
Mhm.
So
Creative.
so let us know in the comments, what do you think about this Eagles offense? What do you think about the Patullo firing? And who do you think should be the next offensive coordinator? That's what we're going to lead into in our next episode, is paying close attention to this offensive coordinator search, because that's going to make or break this team going forward. Because the way I see it, and maybe the way you and many other people in the Delaware Valley see it, is we have maybe a 2 year window left, and we wasted 1 year out of that 2 year window. So maybe we have
Mhm.
1 to 2 more shots at this, because this core will not be the same. The Kobe Dean might be going among with others. Do you think we'll get a competent offensive coordinator and be able to run it back? Because this offense, we still have all the weapons.
Yeah, you
Let us
can.
know
I
what you
mean,
think.
yeah.
You have any final thoughts?
Do you think AJ Brown's gonna be here next year? The way he left that autographed jersey that for Quinion Mitchell.
I'm gonna say this, and we've defended AJ, but we also been critical at times to this point. You you correctly called out the fact that Kevin Patullo was the limiting factor in the success of this offense, but Catch the damn ball. Catch the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah,
Especially
100%.
especially that last drive. We talk about
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts and the throw he missed on the last play. Fair enough. The play call sucked, and he could have scrambled around and gotten more time. Jason Avant made a very great point on that, and that's something that Jalen Hurts has to stand on. You should have scrambled around and tried to make something happen. Even if you ended up like Josh Allen throwing it up for an interception, just give yourself a chance. But early in that drive, put a dot on AJ Brown's hands, just like Joe Montana did Jerry Rice, except Jerry Rice catches that and AJ Brown dropped it.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, I know Jalen Hurts is probably beating himself up on the Devontae Smith. It looks like he overthrew him a little bit on that final
Mhm.
drive too. He's probably
Mhm.
watching the tape like, damn, I had him.
I think that's a very good point you bring up with the Devontae Smith pass, and then with regards to AJ, both in terms of how he fits in culturally, if there's not too much friction to keep that going, as well as salary cap wise. They may have incentive to move on before the cap number shoots up because it's going to go up dramatically. So,
Hmm.
hey, let us know what you guys think, and we're going to catch you on the next episode. I think I'm going to shift over to the Sixers and the Phillies, Bo Bichette, as well as the things that Embiid and Edgecombe and Maxey are doing right now. That being said, hope everybody's being safe. And as always, it's still go Birds.